What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hanna Horror here again. Here's another topic I want to talk to you guys about. And quite honestly, this is not going to be a topic that I necessarily have an answer for. And that's the problem. And I don't mean it's because I don't have the answer. I think it's because a lot of people just don't have the answer. To the question that is, what's going on with Friday the 13th? What's going to happen with Friday the 13th? You know, this is a franchise where I think no one really knows where to go. Nobody really knows what to do. And it's odd because it's almost in the same situation that, that all three guys are, that Freddy, Michael, and Jason seem to be in. Leatherface has his movies coming out. We're getting a prequel about Leatherface. All three of these movies have had remakes. All three of these franchises, have had remakes. Generally, not favored remakes. That's not necessarily my opinion, but generally, the remakes have not been favored. And it almost seems like once you remake a movie, that's like you don't really see too many things happen after that. But obviously with Halloween, there's still interest to make one, and it kind of makes me wonder, well, what about Jason? What are we gonna do with Jason? Because there's still such a lust and a fan base for Friday the 13th and the Jason character. It really is, just interesting to know that there's a chance that there can never be another Friday the 13th movie again. I think they've taken a good step in the right direction in keeping him alive with the new video game, which looks fantastic. I must say, it looks absolutely fantastic, and I will be getting it for Xbox One. So we do have that, but the question I have is there going to be another movie? And not only that, the question you then have to ask is, what the hell are we gonna do? Because, the difference is with this franchise, the story, the timeline was so chaotic in a sense. There probably is a lot of fans who would maybe love to see a tie-in with the original franchise, but the difference with Jason is you really noticed that once Jason got under the control of New Line, the timelines and stuff really just got bizarre. And here's the deal: did Halloween go under different companies for movies? It did, but for the most part, the franchise has a tie-in. Granted, H2O still ties into the original franchise. The way I always saw with the Halloween movies is 1 through 8, you really did have somewhat of a tie-in throughout the series, besides 3, obviously, but we know that. With H2O, it definitely ties in with 1 and 2, and I even justify it myself that Jamie had to, whether people say, well, that's not true, and I know it's not, but somehow I can justify the fact that maybe Jamie had to start a new life, Laurie had to start a new life and go under witness protection, and she gave up the daughter in 4 and 5. I know that's not the case, but you could, or they could have possibly even given that explanation in H2O if they wanted to. But for the most part, there is a more sensible timeline than Friday the 13th series. So, where do we go? What do we do? And I think that's part of the problem. I think that's probably the biggest problem of why we don't have another movie. I don't think that the remake has enough substance, quite honestly, to carry on from there. Not saying that they couldn't, but, you know, look what happened in the original Friday the 13th. It tied in, but at the same time, there was no characters that were really the same in the movies because most of them die off throughout the entire movie. But that's also why we loved Friday the 13th. If you asked me, if I had to make a decision right now, I would say... First of all, I'd say this. I think Derek was a great Jason. My only biggest problem with the remake is that Jason more or less had a prisoner in the movie, and to me, Jason would never do that. It's just kill immediately. So the whole thing with him keeping that girl hostage in those barracks type room that he was in, that underground, you know, whatever you want to call it, tunnel type place. The fact that he had a prisoner was very concerning to me. I would have not wanted that. I understand they were probably trying to have a different layer of Jason in that remake, but if you'd have taken that out, I really wouldn't have had much of a complaint about the movie, besides the fact that I just, you know, you'll never be able to replicate that feel of the original or the original series because they're just meant to be made in the 80s, more or less, in my opinion. But that's not to say I still didn't have some enjoyment from the remake. I think if you were going to take anything, take it at a logical step. Don't necessarily ignore the remake. I personally wouldn't mind if you let Derek back in the suit again, because I think Derek did a good job. Hell, but I will say this, if there's a way we can get Kane to become Jason again, let's do it. Maybe even let Jason, instead of Derek, let Kane be Jason. And you don't necessarily have to give a storyline continuing right from the remake, but have another group of kids get over to Crystal Lake again. Have them keep it simple. I think have another group of kids just go to Crystal Lake. They hear the stories, they're urged not to go, and you just have a great suspenseful movie, you know? Let's have a lot of suspense in this new one. Let it just be another Friday the 13th film, but be, you know, a serious Friday the 13th film. You know, I think that'd be a good way to go. Maybe just less is more, you know? And I think Kane could still do it. I think Derek would be good too, but I think Kane could still do it one more time and really kick ass. I know Kane did all the movements of Jason for the video game. I think all the movements, if not most of the movements. So, but if you ask me, I say let's just make one more Friday the 13th film. Have a group of kids, give them substance, give them good depth in their characters, give us something to grab on, and let them go to camp and let them battle Jason. I think if you try to get more complicated than that, we just could cause, you know, problems. But I'd love to hear what you guys got to say. What do you think we should do with the franchise? Should we try something completely different? I'd be open to that. Should we not have any more? Or do you agree with what I think? Just have another Friday the 13th. Let the kids go back to camp. Maybe even call it Friday the 13th, Jason Returns. You know, something cool like that. But who knows? You know, I have a little less optimism about getting another Friday the 13th, unfortunately, than I do the Halloween movie. You never know, maybe Sean Cunningham can decide to produce one more Friday the 13th. But we'll see. But like I said, I'd love to know what you guys got to say about it. Leave a comment below. Who knows, maybe somebody important can see this video. Maybe they'll see that there really still is a huge fan base for this franchise and that we want to see more. So, alright guys, that's it. This is Christian Hanna. Good to hear from you guys again, and I'll be seeing you guys very shortly. Take it easy.